Hey all, here at OS Reviews. You're watching our review of the ACEPC AK1. This is a mini PC that runs on Windows 10 Home Edition, and it's a good replacement for aging tower desktops that you may have sitting behind a desk. This will take up much less space, it's more energy efficient, it's also mountable onto the back of a television or a monitor, which can also be great for businesses and for presentation purposes. Because Intel chips have been getting progressively more powerful, even lower end hardware like Intel Celerons or Intel Atoms are much faster than they used to be a few years ago. So for most folks, in terms of light productivity, in terms of web browsing, doing presentations, this is really all you need to get by. But if you are looking for a really powerful gaming machine, then you'll still have to look elsewhere. The price point here is fair. It's priced at $199 on Amazon, which is competitive with other small desktops, mini PCs on the market. It has a very interesting design. It's called the splice for a reason. It's because there is a center part that is acting as the cooling vents for the computer. Also because it has a ring that is LED backlit, which gives it a pretty cool look in the dark. It has around 64 gigs of built-in eMMC storage and has the Intel Apollo Lake Celeron chipset built in, which is quad-core. It's complemented by 4 gigs of built-in RAM. The AK1 does support SATA and other hard drives, so you can connect a larger memory module onto this thing if 32 gigs or 64 gigs is not enough, depending on the version you pick up. And furthermore, it does have dual band 2.4G and 5G Wi-Fi, even though it doesn't have a larger antenna. It also has, you can always use an adapter to Ethernet if you don't want to use Wi-Fi for wireless connections. Here is the proprietary charging cable, and this is the free HDMI cable you get as part of the packaging. Down below here, there's also all the kind of warranty information. There's a quick start guide, and that's it. A pretty simple overall presentation. The quick start guide just documents, I guess, some of the various ports, how you can connect it, how to use Windows 10 in terms of the desktop, and with this pamphlet, we have access to the mounting bracket and the screws for connecting onto the back of, let's say, a monitor or a TV. So taking a look at the design of the AK1 first, again, it is still very elegant and simple. Like ACEPC's other models that we've checked out in the past, the entire thing is still made out of a polycarbonate plastic, but it feels well put together. On the side here, you have access to some of the ports, including 2 USB 3.0 ports and a third USB 2.0 port. We also have a micro SD card for directly expanding built-in memory. There's a power switch. On the other side, there is the fourth USB port, which is 2.0 speed. There's a Type-C port, which is very cool. It means you can connect this to a secondary monitor. You can use it for power. There's a lot of things you can do with it. Potentially connect up to 2 monitors, 2 4K monitors with it. There's also a full-size HDMI port, a Ethernet port for wired internet, and a 3.5mm port for headphones and microphones. It does not have a built-in speaker, so you do want to use this if you want sound. There's the power port, and there's also a lock switch. And that's pretty much it. On the back, there's just some very basic information, including some rubber feet that prevents it from sliding around. When plugged into power, we see this blue LED ring on the rim of the slice portion that glows, which makes it look very cool in the dark and has a differentiating design compared to other mini PCs that we've checked out in the past. But there doesn't seem to actually be a running fan, so this is passively cooled, I guess, and it's completely silent. So proceeding through setup for the first time, and I've connected to speaker, so here's some voice prompts from Cortana. And it's probably going to ask us to connect to Wi-Fi.
Your keyboard is set to UN. Do you also type with another keyboard lane? We need to get a few more things polished up for you, and Windows will be all yours. Looking forward to helping out.
We're now booted into the traditional Windows 10 desktop. You can see that we have access to these some basic utilities and standard programs built in, including Paint. There is, it seems like, Microsoft Store, as well as Microsoft Defender, which is their free kind of antivirus software. And there's also a camera app, basic utilities. You can install or purchase Office by yourself, but it's not pre-included. So if you want to use Word, Excel, or PowerPoint, it doesn't come included, again, for free with Windows 10 Home Edition right out of the box. Otherwise, again, the Microsoft Store, you can tap on that to download more mobile games and programs if you want to. This is, again, all your titles, and I can also search here if I want to by voice to ask Cortana questions. If I go into File Manager, let's very quickly check the system properties. It seems like on first impressions at least, the machine is relatively responsive, even though, again, the Celeron processor isn't the fastest chipset, by any means. But it seems like for this quick navigation, all the apps in terms of opening them up, minimizing them, seem to be relatively quick. So this PC, and we are going to tap on first the local disk. So we have, as you can see here, roughly 19 gigabytes remaining out of the 32 gigs, which is the version I have. So that's not a lot of storage. Heavy programs, let's say Photoshop or other games that may demand a lot of free storage, then you have to be careful there and manage that. You can of course install a hard drive and SSD to increase the memory, or you can plug in a thumb drive if you want to store media files, but again, it's not going to work necessarily for programs. Otherwise, if we go into computer properties, we can check that indeed it's running on Windows 10 Home Edition, properly licensed and activated with a valid key, and it has again about 4 gigs of built-in RAM. In terms of connectivity, reception of Wi-Fi seems to be pretty strong, so signal strength, even though it's an integrated antenna and not one that protrudes from the unit. Actually, we're pretty far away from the router right now, but we still have a pretty good overall connection speed, so browsing the web really isn't an issue, and you can always use Ethernet if you want slightly faster data rates. There's also a built-in Bluetooth, which works pretty well. It's Bluetooth version 4.0, so it works with devices like speakers up to 10 meters or roughly 33 feet. One of the nice things about using the Intel Apollo Lake Celeron processor really is the low energy consumption, and so it really never encounters any thermal throttling or overheating problems. Even though it doesn't seem to have an active fan, even if you push it with many tabs open in the browser and let's say Photoshop open, it still remains very cool in temperature. After testing it for a few hours, the top of the computer was still very comfortable in terms of to the touch, and so there's no real concerns there. This is also a very tried and tested processor chipset, so there's no real problems in terms of unexpected performance. Again, it's not a powerhouse by any means, but for basic productivity, for browsing the web, watching videos on YouTube, Netflix, it does those tasks without any problems. A quick demo of the web browsing experience. We have again 3 tabs open right now, and the 4 gigs of RAM seems to be doing an okay job as far as switching back and forth and keeping the pages still fully loaded, as well as other apps open in the background. So the first page is just basically their stock page that shows basic news, weather information. The second is the full version of the New York Times, which is a good benchmark as a complex site that has many of these ads, many videos embedded onto it, many ads as well, that typically will require a little bit more time to load. But on here, it's actually very snappy. It takes just about 2 to 3 seconds for it to completely load, so definitely is faster than a comparable Intel X5 series chipset, which is the Cherry Trail mini PCs that we've been seeing a lot in the same price range. In fact, the last mini PC that was quite memorable in my mind is the ACEPC T11. It's by the same manufacturer, but that one had, if you guys remember, the Intel Cherry Trail X8350 chipset, and it's also a quad-core chipset, but the maximum clock speed, it doesn't get quite as high as this one. This one goes as fast as 2.3 gigahertz on turbo mode, and this boost in performance certainly isn't unwarranted. The processor here, the Celeron, is certainly faster than an Intel Atom, which is the slowest entry-level chipset that, of course, Intel is producing. So we can see this in a benchmark test also produced by CPUbenchmark.com, and we can compare it first with the Intel X5. Again, this is the Z8-50 that was found in the T11, which actually is being sold right now on Amazon for pretty much the same cost as this AK1 slice. So obviously this one with better internals is a better buy. As you can see here, the average CPU mark is 1,299. You have some other statistics in terms of maximum speed, power consumption, but then compared to this one, again, it's 2,138. So although it doesn't get into Intel Core or i-series territory, it certainly is much faster than that previous chipset, and that will showcase itself when you're loading up pages and multitasking. So that's been our review of the ACEPC AK1. Overall, it's a solid mini PC, especially if you want something that has plenty of I/O inputs. It's not the most powerful unit on the market. We've seen versions that have a slightly faster Pentium or even a Core M or Core i series, but for under $200, this remains one of the pretty good values that you can find, with definitely a very unique design, both for cooling as well as those LED lights, as you saw before. Performance, again, also holds up for general navigation, for quick productivity, web browsing, tasks like that. Also for media streaming, watching YouTube and Netflix, again, it does a very good job. Thanks for watching. Here at OS Reviews, it's been our review of the ACEPC AK1 Slice Mini PC.